may have guessed, that song is We All Live Under One Sky. And it's sung by Reverend Sunshine Day. And she was in ministerial school. She was finishing up when Michael and I were starting it. And we also got to participate with her through a variety of things. One of the things in ministerial schools that happens is you participate in some of these big events that go on for the whole of Centers for Spiritual Living. And one of the intentions of that is that sometimes when we're coming into our individual centers, we can get very focused on what's happening in our individual centers. And I would say, even taking a step back from that, we can get very focused on what's happening in our own individual lives. Now, I use that word we, perhaps I'm wrong there, and perhaps it really should just be, I get very fixated on what happens in just my life. The invitation that I am extending to you is to imagine the notion of embracing the mission of creating a world that works for everyone. The reason that I extend this invitation is that oftentimes many people feel drawn and attracted to creating a better world. I don't know about any of you, again, but I can make guesses. I know that I can go on a Facebook page, or I can open my email and I can get many, many messages letting me know about attacks on women's rights, attacks on education and access for children, attacks on that people have been gunned down and that people who are supporting gun rights are advocating in the face of people being shot. I can confront these things and start to feel overwhelmed. The notion of putting that aside and holding on to the vision of a world that works for everyone gives me a tool, gives me a spiritual tool as a way to reorient myself towards all of those things that are happening out there. Now, I also heard in prayer identification that sometimes things happen in our lives, and even though we set intentions, and even though there are great things that are happening, there are times when it doesn't look all that great. And sometimes what happens is, as we're making space for the great to happen, the old habits that have allowed the not great to happen get very restless. The notion of being displaced. What do you mean you're going to do without me? Prove it. I'm going to make you show that you can do without me. So all of our worst habits can come out in force. That can be fear, that can be self-doubt, that can be self-negation. It can come up in any number of ways. And again, I'm not speaking about you, but I can speak about me. I know that when I go to work, I can get overwhelmed in the details, and they can make it take much longer than many of my colleagues in order to deal with what I need to deal with. Many times I participate in a Tuesday morning prayer group, and the people that have been praying with me and for me know that I'm frequently praying to be a place through which divine efficiency is working its way, or a place through which divine wisdom is taking action. I may find myself engaging with families and they're just not interested in engaging. I'm trying to work with them to help their children and they're like, no, we're fine. I really don't want to, I'm not going to send you the consent form. And sometimes it isn't even a direct statement of, I'm not going to send you the form. It's that I'm just not answering my phone, that I can't even talk with you about the consent form. I know you've sent it to me 4 times, and I don't know where it's gone. The intention of creating a world that works for everyone is about setting aside my personal reactivity to that. And it's about embracing the possibility. Yes, it is possible that there's all kinds of things happening. As I was saying, I think I mentioned to Nancy that Michael will send me emails, and I don't even read emails from my own husband. And sometimes he'll text me, and I have a story that really capitalizes this. I was testing a student, and my cell phone was ringing, and I ignore it. I always ignore my cell phone when I'm testing a student, because I'm with a student, and I'm trying to be very present to the student. Then my phone starts ringing at the desk, and it keeps ringing and ringing, and so finally I go over to it, and I'm like, hello? And the person on the other end says, hello, I don't want you to panic, but this is the EMT. I'm letting you know that your husband had a heart attack. He's like, he told me that you wouldn't answer your cell phone, and that I would have to keep trying your number. And literally, he had left like 3 messages, and that was the only way I knew that it was significant, because the phone kept ringing over and over again. So sometimes I can get very fixated on things. And even after I got the phone call, I'm like, okay, I've got to finish this 10 more minutes of testing this student. I mean, he's just had a heart attack, and I'm still worrying about this 10 more minutes with the student. Anyhow, what can happen in our lives is we can get very fixated. And life can press in on us. Sometimes the fixations are ways that we know how to deal with the world. They're ways that we have come into the habit of dealing with things. Sometimes, when we set a higher vision, we can break away from those habits. So I want to talk about several things this morning for ways to let go of those habits. Now, when I talked about the notion, I want to compare and contrast the notion of a world that works for everybody, creating a better world. If we're creating a better world, that can be very fixated and fixed on my vision of a better world. Well, if I pick up the garbage here, it's a better world. If I do this, it's a better world. One of the things about a better world can be a very solitary vision, one that doesn't include anyone else. I mean, to be honest, Hitler thought he was creating a better world. And the people inside were convinced, and people who would not have, under any other circumstances, have engaged in the kinds of behaviors that they engaged in, would not have done that. Police officers will say, I'm doing this to protect, serve, and love, and yet how many times have we read in this past year about the inappropriate response of police to people who are needing that protection? I think that the notion of creating a better world just isn't big enough. So the invitation to creating a world that works for everyone, I think, calls us to see from a higher place. And it can be, we can fall back into the, well, is this better for me? Or is this better for everyone? I think that as we start to ask that question, that becomes a spiritual compass. Am I looking at it for me, or am I looking at it for me and the others in my life? Am I looking at it for future generations in my life? Is this contribution something that is making the world a better place for others as well as for me? So, the world is a better place, a world that works for everyone. Another way that I heard it described, another way, how can I love the child of everything in the universe, of every species, for all time? What would it be to think about loving every child ever born to every species? What an expansion of the heart might that be? If that was the guiding question versus, well, is this going to look better in my living room, or is this going to look better in my living room? Or whatever those things are that come up to us. So, like I said, the first thing that I'm inviting you to consider is a better world, a world that works for everyone and for everything. it just becomes a guiding question. It becomes an arrow that helps us decide how and when and where to move. Now, the second thing I'd like us to consider is inspiration and aspiration. So many things can inspire us. We can see the work and we can see the activities of people, and they can inspire us. I can listen to a song that Sunshine Day wrote and produced and created, and I can be inspired by it. How many times do we pull out a musical piece if we're feeling low, because that musical piece will pick us up? I'm not suggesting that inspiration is bad or wrong or something to set aside. I'm simply inviting us to expand from inspiration. Yes, I think Oprah is one of the most inspirational people in the world. This is a person who confronted amazing challenges. Maya Angelou is a woman who confronted amazing challenges. These inspirational people, Mother Teresa, she was in her 50s and she just didn't like what her order of nuns were doing. And the Reverend Mother said, "You're just not working out here." And yet Mother Teresa went on to the poorest of India and has inspired how many people to change how they'll be. She was in New York and had parked on the street, and they said, "Well, of course you can have parking here." And she's like, "But I want the parking for my nuns. That's the thing that would really make a difference here. It's great that you're giving me all of these honors, but really, I don't need them. I'm supported. I could pay for the parking or I could walk. I'm used to that. I have these houses of nuns who are working with the homeless, who are working with people with HIV. They need the access. Give it to them." What an inspiration to be able to set aside those honors and those arrangements that were made and be thinking of something bigger than herself. So, inspiration is amazing. And inspiration can uplift us, and inspiration can give us a goal, can give us a direction, can give us guidance. I believe the real power, though, comes with aspiration. Do we aspire to be like that? Do we aspire to let that same kind of selflessness, to let that same kind of giving come through us? Again, I think aspiration takes us only so far, or inspiration takes us only so far. Aspiration takes the ceiling away. Because the way that each of us aspire creates opportunity that will not be available to anybody else in the world. The capacity to embrace our own aspirations is a powerful tool, is a powerful practice. Inspiration can give us direction for our aspiration. So that would be the second thing I'd invite us to consider. Where and what and how will I aspire? What are the aspirations in my life? The third thing that I'd like us to think about in terms of these tools for creating a world that works for everyone is the notion of vision paralleled with goals. Oftentimes, we can set goals. The thing about goals is that they give us a very specific endpoint. So, for example, when I work with students, the goal that I may have is that they're going to gain in reading comprehension from a 6th grade level to a 7th grade level, that they will make a full year's gain in terms of being able to pick up a book and read it. That goal is very direct, very clear, very measurable. Can they pick up 7th grade literature and read it and comprehend it? Goals can be fabulous. Again, the notion here is to accept, embrace, acknowledge, and hold for these goals. I think it becomes rocket-fueled when we let vision direct us with the goals. Vision is the capacity to let the power of the universe, to let the love of the universe, to let the life of the universe, to let the wisdom, the beauty, the majesty of the universe come in, through, and as us. So vision may be far less specific. In the process of visioning, when you're called to just take a moment and consider what is the highest and best you are called to. Just close your eyes for a minute and consider what is the highest and best you are called to. As you sit with that, as you let that be your question for the day, when you get up in the morning and you ask, what is the highest and best I am called to? You may notice that it's a clear expression, that it's a clear tabloid heading. I will go out and win. I will do this. Sassy will be as great today as possible. There may be a very direct verbal directive to our vision. The vision may be an image. And it may puzzle us. We're like, why am I seeing a field? And there's cloud cover in part of it, and there's sunshine on another part of it. It may be a song or a melody or a tune. The wonderful thing about vision and the wonderful thing about what we're called to is that it touches us in a variety of ways. It may be an odor, a fragrance. Why am I suddenly smelling orange oil? Why am I getting lemon blossoms? The point of a vision is that it is deeper, and it can fill us, and it can inspire us. And it opens us to mystery. Often, the notion of a goal is very clear. I got Fitbit for myself with some Christmas money. And, you know, I've got the goal, I'm going to walk, I'm going to march, I'm going to do 10,000 feet a day. Now that's a very clear goal, and the notion of how to get to 10,000 feet is not all that hard to figure out. I just have to get out and do it. One of the goals is that I will cover 10 flights of stairs. Last night I'm looking and I'm like, oh gosh, I've done 1 flight of stairs. So I go down, go up and down the stairs, and I get up to 8, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting closer, I'm closer. A goal is very clear, and it's very easy to see that we've accomplished. A vision is more nebulous. And sometimes in our rational world, the notion of embracing something nebulous is not something that we will get a lot of approval for. In fact, if we go to someone and say, my vision is about this field, and it's cloudy on one side and sunny on another side, you may get people looking at you kind of funny and think, what's the matter with you? The power of the vision is that it can fuel the goal. The mystery of what does this mean? Why is this coming to me? What is this about? That mystery is opening up. And ultimately, I believe that that opening up is what will enable us to create a world that works for all. Because as long as we think that it's just this, as people may know from the idea of the law of attraction, you get just that. We wanted it, and here it's come. But the notion of opening to mystery will bring us more. You identified, Chris, that there were more things than what you counted on. And what we can find with those more things than what we counted on are, there's something bigger inside of me than what I was aware of. There is a vastness, there's a majesty in me that I did not previously know. We set goals thinking I'm going to stretch myself a little bit. The notion of the vision is I'm going to open myself up more completely. And again, one of the pieces that I would say about coming together in community is that we can be supported in community in ways that just don't happen when we're on our own. I know that Tan works with people who are coming to make changes in their lives. Some of them may have come because, hey, I want some more personal growth and I want to be a better person. Some people may have come because they feel like, oh my God, if I don't do something, X, Y, and Z are going to completely fail. I suspect in that process of their coming to Tan, oftentimes more stuff will reveal itself than people ever expected. So, that vision is about living with the mystery. So again, the three things that I would say to consider, three tools are, do I choose to look for myself, create a better world, or do I choose to look for a world that is working for all? Will I extend myself beyond myself, recognizing that really myself is just an idea that's been hammered into me from my culture? There are some cultures that have no concept of a self. There are some cultures that you are just part of this group. There is no earth and there is no person. There is this one united being. Me amidst this group of people on this land, taking care of it. That's a cultural perspective. How can I embrace that while also respecting the fact that there are others who see it as just a me world? This isn't about condemning others, it's simply about embracing more. The inspiration and the aspiration. Allow the inspirations that come to us to fuel our own aspirations. So if Mother Teresa inspires me, how do I embrace some of the things that Mother Teresa calls forward? If Oprah inspires me, how do I aspire to that kind of power? How do I aspire to that kind of generosity? How do I aspire to that kind of fearlessness? And then goal and vision. Say what my goal is. Be willing to declare the goal. And open to the mystery that vision will allow. And so it is.